Hello, Zero.
Oh, Jesus, SCR! Don't scare me like that, dude. Wait, why are you here?
Who, me? Nothing. I'm just here to get you back on track.
With what?
Oh, don't play coy with me, Zero. You know exactly what I'm talking about. It's a review that you've been putting off over and over and over. You've been talking about doing this review for... 2 years!
Is this payback for Bloody Roar 3?
Yes, it is.
Whatever, let's just get to this. Hello guys, and welcome back to Zero's Maverick Hunting. You know, I like RPGs, but I get bored of them really quick. The reason being is, like, sometimes I just don't want to go on a 40-hour quest. And then there are games like Pokemon and Paper Mario, two of my favorite RPGs, which are relatively simple games, yet they do something creative and innovative with the genre. And I like Final Fantasy, but I never complete them. Mostly because my consoles don't agree with me when I play them, but a lot of the times it's because they're too damn long for my taste. I'm also a big fan of fighting games, whether it be Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Dead or Alive. I'm a fan of the genre, whether I'm playing single player or multiplayer. Now, what if you put a fighting game and an RPG together? And I'm not talking about a leveling system in something like Soul Calibur. I'm talking about taking the battle system from an RPG and mixing it with the mechanics of a fighting game to make a truly unique experience. Well, that's where Ultimate Fighter comes in.
For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, let's look into the history of this game. Ultimate Fighter is the 7th game in the Hiryu no Ken series, not to be confused with Hokuto no Ken, better known as Fist of the North Star. Anyways, Hiryu no Ken S Golden Fighter, known as Ultimate Fighter in the US, was the 4th game in the series released outside of Japan, and is the successor to the previous game, Flying Warriors. It should also be mentioned that Flying Warriors and Ultimate Fighter are both part of the Gaiden era, or side story of the Hiryu no Ken series. The hero of the game is Rick, and his goal is to get back the scroll of Hiryu no Ken from the recently revived Dargon, who wants to destroy the Flying Warriors by taking them on in a fighting tournament. As the game progresses, you will also run into other playable characters that you can call on in battle, such as Greg, the Mike Hagar lookalike, Hayato, the Johnny Cage ripoff, Mary, the token female of the group, and Jimmy, who looks like a cross between Billy and Jimmy Lee. Would this technically make him Bimmy? Anyways, each character has their own set of spells and attacks, including the awesome Hiryu no Ken.
Now, before I start talking about the gameplay of this game, there's two things you need to know. One, it has several modes of play. And two, one of those modes of play, the one that I'm going to be focusing most on, is a mix of like a beat-em-up, fighter, RPG. And it's a mode that often gets overlooked in other reviews. Let's start with the traditional modes first.
The story mode is the default one-player mode. As the name says, it follows the storyline of the game. This mode consists of two types of gameplay: side-scrolling beat-em-up for the regular gameplay, and a 2D fighter for the random encounters. Yeah, you heard me right. This game is random encounters. Well, sort of. How this works is you'll start in beat-em-up mode, beating bad guys and collecting miracle water, when suddenly you'll have to fight a challenger, and win to proceed with the game. Now remember how I said there were random encounters? Well, that's only partially true. See, while the battles happen at random points in each stage, they're all predetermined. Therefore, you must do all these fights in order to progress in the story. Let's take a quick break from story mode to talk about the other modes. Don't worry, there's a good reason for this. Tournament mode is your standard fighting mode where you can face off against other players, the computer, or just watch a bunch of AI characters beat the living Sagozo out of each other. Next is fighter mode, where you can take on any of the story mode challengers you have unlocked and then battle them as practice. By the way, I just love some of the names of these characters. Soma, Zebra, Huge Hugh or Hug, Vajira, Jake Spinner. Wait. Go back. Jake Spinner? Jake Spinner? He looks like the bastard child of Baraka from Mortal Kombat, and Sheena from Bloody Roar. Now before we move on to the last gameplay mode, let's talk about the controls. While the controls in the beat-em-up sections of the game are fine and function properly, the fighting encounters have horrendous controls. The movement is stiff, the hit detection is barely there, and half the time the controls don't work. The problem is that the game was meant to have more realistic combat and work with a point system, much like a martial arts tournament match works. What I mean by this is you're supposed to attack your opponent in any critical point to cause massive damage. The problem is that the game never explains this to you, and again, the hit detection can make your moves not work properly. Given the fact that all the movements are based on this, you're left with a good idea that didn't have very good execution. This is where most reviews I've seen give up on the game and give it a low score based on this. However, they also skip over probably the most important and innovative gameplay mode, animation mode. This mode is pretty much story mode, however, when you hit the fighting encounters, the game turns into a turn-based fighting RPG. This is how I remember playing the game as a kid, and what stood out to me about it. This mode alone makes the game much more enjoyable, and while its initial purpose is to teach you how the combat works, it ends up being some original gameplay that you wouldn't expect in a game like this. In short, animation mode is the game, and if you haven't played it, you haven't really experienced the game. Now for the combat itself. It's basically like that of a turn-based RPG in which you have a list of commands to choose from based on the situation. When you're on the offensive, you can choose to attack, use magic water to restore health, or if your KO bar is high enough, you can use the Here You No Ken, powerful attack that can hit the weak point for massive damage. When you're on the defensive, you can defend, which will reduce the damage taken, dodge, in which you dodge the enemy's attacks, or like in offensive, use magic water to restore HP. One thing to keep in mind while playing defensively is that not every strategy works against every attack, and using the same defensive maneuver won't always work because the AI will pick up on this and change their strategy accordingly. Finally, at the end of each stage, you'll face a boss who will have a second superpowered form, where in turn you'll also gain increased power. In this mode, combat is virtually the same except for the inclusion of magic spells. These spells work differently based on the character you use. Also, these are the only battles where you can change characters, and while you probably won't need to, it's a welcomed addition to the gameplay. The KO bar is an interesting take on an energy meter. Basically, the meter increases when you land successful attacks or block attacks. This does not count for blocking a missed attack. When the meter is full, it's used to do a Here You No Ken or spell. When the bar is at max, you basically get a freebie for your first attack. However, it also does go down when you take damage. So if you're up against a hard boss and desperately need to use the Here You No Ken, you'll be Sagozo out of luck. Luckily, the game isn't that difficult, so you'll probably never run into a situation where you will desperately need to use your spells. Unfortunately, animation mode does not add much more to the game other than being an original idea. Since all the fights are in predetermined locations, there's not much of a reason to play the game again unless you want to challenge yourself with the story or battle modes, but I wouldn't recommend it unless you're a masochist. Another missed opportunity is a lack of co-op play in the story and animation modes, and while the game doesn't lend itself to co-op very well, the beat-em-up fan of me felt it needed some co-op gameplay in some form. But on the other hand, the game is probably better without it. The only reason for replaying this game would be to find all the hidden dojo areas, and your only reward for finding them is extra magic water or unneeded exposition. So while this game offers something new, it doesn't do much with it. The graphics of the game are colorful, detailed, and stand out great. The characters have a decent amount of animation and expression for the time. One thing to note would be the graphics are completely different in the Japanese version. I feel this was done to make the game more appealing to a Western audience. Anime was still a niche market in the West, and the manga-style artwork probably would have felt off at the time. One thing that was odd to me is the resolution kept changing. It's fine on title screens and cutscenes, but there's weird cropping going on in the main stages. And this isn't consistent because at the boss battles, the resolution changes again. I actually didn't notice this until I started editing my footage. At first I attempted to fix it, but then once I got into it, I decided that it wasn't worth the effort to fix it every time, so I left it as is. The music has a very relaxing feel to it, which makes the game feel like a Sunday afternoon game. This is the type of game you want to play when you're relaxed, and the music complements this well. Except for the boss battle music that will really get you into the heat of battle. The sound effects aren't anything to write home about, but the game does contain some MIDI voice work for the characters Kias and the referee's countdown. My final verdict on this game is it is worth a playthrough. While it's not the best of its kind, it's got something most fighters or beat-em-ups at the time just didn't offer. This is really the game to play if you want to try something new but don't feel like taking on an epic or extremely difficult adventure. And don't let all the negative attention this game has received affect how you feel about it. Give it a try for yourself and judge it based on your own experience. You might end up liking it.
Thanks for watching Zero's Maverick Hunting. I'll see you next time. Hello?
Zero! Finally, you're impossible to get a hold of sometimes, you know that?
Oh, I was wondering where you went.
That's the problem. It's not so much where I went as it is where I ended up.
What do you mean?
Well, after I left, I decided to have my family traditional snack of a pretzel with cheese microwaved on top of it, and then my microwave imploded, and somehow that sent me here.
Okay, how is that even possible? A microwave doesn't even have any networking capabilities.
You're the guy that has aliens flying out of his PC, and you're questioning my logic?
Anyways, where are you?
Oh, your guess is as good as mine, man. I mean, the sky's full of clouds, there's nothing but solid rock on the ground for miles and miles. Either my microwave destroyed half of Ohio, or somehow I wound up in Arizona.
Actually, that sounds more like the dark dimension from the game.
That still sounds better than Arizona.
Whatever, just hold on, I'll get you out of there.
Foolish mortal, you dare to enter the domain of Dargon?
Whoa, got a problem, pal? Look, just sit your poorly spelled ass back, and I'm gonna be out of your wicked garden in no time, alright?
Ha!
Dude, if you don't want any trespassers, put up a sign!
Okay, let's see. He's in the dark dimension. Where do I possibly have to get him out? This might work.
Kamen Rider. Dragon Knight.
SCR.
Did you find something out? Because this guy's getting really annoying.
Yeah, you see, whenever a boss fight takes place in the game, it happens in the dark dimension.
Okay, now what the hell does that mean?
Well, you see, when you're in the dark dimension, your powers increase exponentially, allowing you to invoke special powers within yourself.
You're really expecting me to do this magical incantation, hidden powers within you bullshit in the middle of your review? Alright, how do I do it?
Well, to start, you can stop using the dodge command and move the cursor over to the skill command.
Okay, baked potato football, ironing your bed sheets as a favor for your best friend, attack. Ha!
What are you going on about?
Hey.
Attack Rider. Final Attack Rider.
Cross-dimensional, here you know Ken! SCR, you alright, dude?
I'm okay.
Oh, I'm surprised you survived the blast.
Ah, come on, man. I've had way worse than this. Remember Pagemaster?
I'd rather not.
Yeah, me neither. Anyway, you should probably end your review. Ooh. And I should probably get an ice pack. Later.
Alright, later. I'm going to bed. Oh boy, can't wait to play Dragon Knight for the Wii.
Oh. Where am I?
Wizwar.
Damn it, Zero. So the game's led me to this.
You know what this means.
Crossover time. We have to go into the mirror world to review the Dragon Knight games.
Well, in that case, let's ride.
Engine! Engine!
Get the property off my fuck.